You would think that everybody would be on board to deal with oil subsidies, seeing that Mobil's making like record profits every quarter. But for some reason, when we look at the bills that come from the Republicans so far, we see that they're trying to redefine rape. Things that don't make any common sense, in my opinion. Why don't we see on colleagues on the other side of the political aisle talk about things such as farm subsidies and oil subsidies, something that you would think would get universal support not only among members of Congress but among members of the public?
Aaron Rodgers.
I think there's probably a couple explanations for that. One is that both agricultural interests and petroleum interests have extraordinarily powerful lobbies. Two is that the United States Senate puts an awful lot of power in the hands of rural senators. I don't know how many people there are in Nebraska. I suspect there's fewer than there are here in my congressional district, but they get 2 senators. And the Senate, of course, is structured to stop anything that an individual senator really, really wants to stop. So I think there's a bunch of reasons. That doesn't mean it's right that those subsidies continue to exist.
Well, I think that we heard from this last campaign cycle, we had the people in the Tea Party movement say, cut spending, cut spending. And this is a great example of spending, and we don't see a lot of that rhetoric transform from the campaign trail to the legislative trail. And I think that farm subsidies and oil subsidies is a perfect example where everybody should be on board, but for some reason the people who were elected based upon the theme of like out of control spending aren't coughing up really measures to control spending or deal with spending.
Yeah. Look, the new majority is in a couple of different very complicated boxes, and it's going to be pretty interesting to watch how they get out of it, right? They've promised massive cuts, whatever that is, the Pledge to America promises $100 billion a year.
They couldn't even do that.
There's no way, because they're exempting defense and they don't mention Medicare and Social Security. That leaves you $500 billion to cut. 20%, $100 billion on $500 billion, not going to happen. And there's a reason why you're hearing no specificity as to where those cuts. You're not going to hear them talk about cutting subsidies to oil companies and agriculture. You're not even hearing them talk about cutting subsidies for housing and education and infrastructure, because all of a sudden now they're hearing from their constituents or others who are saying, wait a minute, this is not waste. This is important stuff. So they're in a real box on that issue. And it'll be really interesting to see if their feet get held to the fire on not just, all right, we're cutting everybody 15%. That's easy to say. Specifically what gets cut, because that's when they start to feel pushback. The other thing, and I don't know how they get out of this box, is what are the 2 cornerstone initiatives that the majority has said they must do? They want to permanently extend the 01 and 03 tax cuts. We know exactly what that would cost, $4 trillion over 10 years. And the most aggressive cost-cutting they've done, which exceeds what was in the Pledge to America, was $2.5 trillion over 10 years. That's $250 billion a year over 10 years, which I don't know how you get to. But anyway, let's just stipulate that they can achieve those 2 things. The revenue side has gone down by $4 trillion. The expense side has gone down by $2.5 trillion. That's a $1.5 trillion increase in the deficit over 10 years based on their marquee policies, and they're telling everybody that we're going to deal with the deficit. I don't know how you get out of that box.